Hello again. I just wanted to talk about matrix glitches, and I call it Blue Spark most of the time. This topic is pretty similar to those in my first two videos. I forgot to talk about it, but this will give me a chance to talk a little bit more about myself, as well as about some of the visions I've had over the last day or two. The blue sparks. They're mostly blue when I see them. They can be different colors, like red, or because I've had a massive breakthrough over the last night and this morning. And I'm actually pretty excited about it because I'd never really delved into it that much. I always thought it was kind of a synchronicity, but without numbers or events. Just kind of showing me that I'm in the right moment at the right time, being at the right place, or stuff like that. I actually got my username, and I'm seeing blue sparks right now. I got my username, Molite Being. I had to read it because I'm silly. I was typing in usernames and trying to see which ones were taken and which one I actually wanted. The Mo part of Mo Light Being is after my self-assigned nickname, Satchmo. I also wanted it to be a play on Mo, like in the midnight hour, she cried Mo, Mo, Mo. But yeah, my real name is Satch, Satch. That was always too difficult to explain to people, and old people specifically, always asked me if I was named after Satchmo, the musician Louis Armstrong. And eventually it made it a whole lot easier to start introducing myself as that instead of getting asked that every time I introduced myself. It just made it more seamless when I was meeting people, even though people can't really pronounce Satchmo the first time around. So I tell them it's either Satch or Mo or Satchmo. Any of that is I will respond to any of those. Very similar to the blue spark or whatever spark it is, whatever color it is. There's also breakthrough type visions, like imprints on reality, sort of like seeing in another dimension that's right next to you. There'll be like a little square, usually at kind of an angle. When I speak of things being in the fourth dimension, to me that means that they are timeless, that even if I wasn't here as this being, these things would be happening. Even if this wasn't the actual reality, if it was different, these things would be happening whether I see them or not. And that's what I mean by fourth dimensional, timeless, and they actually look more real than reality does normally, if that makes sense at all. And about the actual little pinprick ones, they kind of look like if you could imagine a molecule of light and all of a sudden it just explodes that fast. Just explodes. It's pretty small. It's from the size of a pinprick to the end of maybe a ballpoint pen will be one of the bigger ones. Or they could probably be bigger than that. I don't know if I've seen any that are bigger than that aren't like the checkered ones or other things that I've seen that I can't explain at all. There are those. Let's just say there are those that I can't explain also. I had the breakthrough, and I'll link to the video that inspired it. And after I watched the video, one of these sparks happened. And in the video, Casey had been talking about following a vision into it and thereby going into different dimensions. And I saw one of the sparks and I was like, oh, well, maybe that's kind of like that. So I stared directly at where it was and followed it into itself. Well, my consciousness projected into a different reality, and it was like I was by a big castle, like a big white castle. And there was kind of clouds around it, kind of like, almost like a very archetypal image of the castle in the clouds kind of thing. And I'm instantly inside this great hall, and there's a burgundy carpet leading up to the podium. Can't really see very well because I'm still in this reality and in that reality at the same time, and my own imagination is trying to fill in the details, and I'm trying to fight off my imagination and just let it flow in. And it's a complicated thing to actually get a clear picture. When I'm looking at different paintings on the wall, I see some of the people that just look like figures. I can't really make out what they look like. But then I'm right in front of the king. And I see he's got a crown like a king should. But his face is gray and kind of indented at different spots. Didn't look inhuman, but he didn't look very human either. Well, right after that, I lost the connection to the vision back in our reality. But then the next spark, I follow it back in again, which very rare for them to happen right after each other. But sometimes it'll just be going off. Boop, boop, psh, 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 psh. There'll be sparks everywhere. But this time that I followed it in there, I was back in the King's Hall. But I got kicked out really fast. There was like a tussle, some kind of commotion going on in front of me, in front of the king, and I see flailing arms and stuff, and all of a sudden I'm out. And I'm standing on a spiritual plane, and it's in space though. And there's like a little bit of a fog at the bottom just to kind of show me where the horizon is. And there's this doorway. I'm going to the doorway. This took a little while to get finally through the doorway. Flailing arms again. I feel like I'm falling upwards. And there's just a bunch of other flailing, I wouldn't say people, but they were just their limbs flapping around. Kind of very Alice in the Wonderland. But anyways, I'm standing in the middle of a desert, and I'm looking at this big mountain, really for only a couple seconds, when I'm grabbed by a hawk or an eagle. I want to say a hawk because that's my animal totem, but not sure what kind of bird it was. Obviously big enough to pick me up, or my spirit. I guess my spirit would be pretty light. But and then it carries me instantly into space again, from which I'm thrown through space and then down into this blue planet. I don't know, the continents kind of look different than what our continents look like. But I only saw that for a second or two, and then boom, I'm on the planet in kind of like this foggy, kind of like, not really like a marsh, but that's the best way I can describe it, as being like a marsh. And then there's this blue woman in front of me, and the decoding of it, my brain forced onto it the projection that it was like the female avatars in the movie Avatar. That faded out kind of quickly as I shut off my own imagination and just went with it and decided, and then my brain didn't project its own coding onto what was actually coming through. And I could really see The being, I don't know why I think of it as a female, because really, I guess just from the feel of its spirit, I guess. There's this very very thin being, and but blue, but not exactly like a not the bright blue of the Avatar, more of a grayish blue. And this being kind of had similar little bit of indentions, like the king from the earlier vision, but kind of with like a little bit longer skull. I guess I couldn't see the king's head that well because of his crown, but her skull was a little bit bigger than normal human skull. Not really any hair, but mostly just getting the telepathic communication to that she loved me, and that everything was fine. They're glad that I'm there, and stuff like that. Not really in words, just feelings. But then she wanted me to go with her, so I follow her off into this kind of like misty realm, and she leads me to this hut, and there's a doorway, but there's a rune over the doorway. I have a picture of it, but it kept changing. Like I would try to focus on it, and it would change itself around. And I would try to focus on it, and it would change itself around. For best representation, but you get the idea. And after seeing that, I was inside the hut, and there's more of like an elderly, kind of had a little bit of a goatee, and we smoked some kind of peace offering, and we're just hanging out. It started raining, and I lost connection after that. The next morning, I had the blue spark again, and I was told, this is a quote: "You have the most power at this time out of all of those in your current soul group. We are working with you closely to help expand the awareness of others in ways that you could not possibly imagine." Bursts of telepathic images of different stuff during that, wherein I'm conceivably interacting with different dimensions by way of doing the things that I do in this dimension. During this I saw images of being in the hut again, but this time it was sunny outside. It wasn't raining anymore, and it felt like the next morning, like my spirit had in some ways stayed there and been there and hung out all night. And then I didn't reconnect with that part of my consciousness until I was able to follow the blue spark again. Quote's a little bit interesting. If it wasn't followed by all the telepathic parts that are really unexplainable, it seems kind of like some kind of ego boost. I don't really see it that way. Since I am all of you, you are all in a way contracting me as part of yourselves to put up these videos and speak the possibilities that lie within each and all of you. And I have the so-called power to stand up and speak my truth, and hopefully it resonates. But in that, I've had to give up myself a bit. Anyways, so if anybody has any thoughts on what the rune means, I'd love to hear that. I kind of have some clue. I won't give anything away. You guys are going to have to figure it out. Go all detective on me or something. I don't know. But anyways, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Namaste.